This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 191.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. My guest today is a great guest. He's been on the show before, and he goes by the name of Patrick Pissang. He's been on show 118, so wetheSalesEngineers.com/show 118, the creativity of sales engineering. And he taught me that there are ways beyond that, just what we do today, where we can use our creativity to be better sales engineers, whether it's in terms of having like a newspaper printed with what we could do for customers in the future or any other thing. And he has recently written a book called The Social Sales Engineer, right here. And we talk about writing the book. We talk about being social sales engineers, talk about a bunch of different stuff. So let's just jump into the show and see what Patrick has to say. Good afternoon, Patrick. How are you doing?
Hey, Ramsey. Happy, very good. Living a dream, I like to say. Well, I learned this from US guys. So a German would never say this, by the way.
No? Why not? You guys don't have dreams?
Yeah, it's better to complain a bit first and then have the exchange of information.
Okay, so it sounds like you're the lead person.
I'm exaggerating a lot, right? But living the dream is quite unusual here. How are you?
We're doing good. Benny has been out of commission for the last few weeks. He was busy just cutting his hair. It took him a few weeks to cut his hair, and now he's back.
I see.
Good to see him as well. We're good. And you've been on the show in the past, show 118. So this episode is show 191. So it's been a while, and you've done a lot of things since then. But let's start off with, maybe if people want to know more about you, they can go watch that video. They can follow you on LinkedIn. You have a lot of stuff on there. But maybe a brief 30-second overview of who you are and what you do. That'll be helpful.
I'm pre-sales trainer, so sales engineering trainer and coach. That's what I do. So I come to B2B pre-sales teams and train them on. Right now, social media is quite a big topic there. So how to become a B2B influencer in that sense. And my signature kind of course is the hero's journey. So this is for beginners and advanced people or teams who want to get into the mindset of pre-sales, do discovery a bit better, a lot of role play exercises, no demo training, because I know there are really good people out there that do that. So that's not my thing. So that's me. I'm 40. I have 2 kids. I'm married. I live in Germany. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here.
Nice. And you have your logo behind you. It's the Phoenix.
The Phoenix, yes.
Why did you decide to, what's the Phoenix represent to you? I mean, that has nothing to do with sales engineering. It's just, I'm curious about it.
It's the hero's journey. So the hero's journey was coined by Joseph Campbell. Maybe you know this guy. The Hero of a Thousand Faces. Great book. And their most Hollywood films come from the structure. Christopher Vogler, I think, is the name of the guy who got it into a Hollywood theme. So, and one thing in the hero's journey is always the hero dies and returns, but better, to his full potential, right? And this is what the hero represents for me. So it's this, going through the flames, burning in there, and then raising as somebody new on the other side.
Nice.
Being with your full potential, right? So that's the Phoenix.
Nice. All right, cool, man. And you mentioned social selling. You've been talking a lot about that recently, and you wrote a book. Do you want to plug that book right now? Because that's what we're going to be talking about for a lot of time.
I have it here.
Yeah, I have it upstairs. I'm reading it upstairs. I noticed that I don't read in my office.
Besides your bed, right?
I'm not going to tell you where it is. But
okay. If you spend time there a lot, it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm halfway through. I guess not enough time, but I'm halfway through. And it's been good because I'm reading it and I'm like, yeah, I went through that, because I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I went through that.
Yeah.
I went through that. Should I post? Should I not post? What should I say when I'm posting about my first podcast? But
yeah,
what made you actually want to write a book?
I don't know. It's in you that maybe sounds weird. So I talked to Don Carmichael about the idea of having it was an ebook idea, like what should sales engineers do to be more visible on social media. This is how it started, and we thought we would write it together. I wrote some chapters because I'm used to writing. I write fiction novels also in German. I think, I told you in the last show, I think. Yep. So the process for me was quite straightforward. So I just started writing, and I wrote every day. And then I thought, we need this kind of story. Like, it's too boring. Just the pure information is too boring. So and that's why Elias was born, right? The hero in here that you hopefully feel like, I know this. That's exactly me, or how I was. And this is how it evolved. And then you get a professional editor in there, because I'm German. My stuff is Germish, right? It sounds Germish, so it should sound English. So then an editor comes in and looks at the structure, and then things, it's like the process takes over, right? It just takes you with it, because there's so much energy already in there that you continue writing, you continue restructuring, you add stuff, you delete stuff. And at the end you come up with the book. That's cool.
Nice. I've been thinking about writing a book for almost 3 years now. And I'm struggling with the process. You said you write every day, right?
Yes.
And I sit down, I say, all right, I'm going to write every day. And 3 days in, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to create that YouTube video that I was talking about. So I stop writing and then go do a YouTube video. Or, oh, now I have I've been in meetings all day today, and now I have to send all the follow-ups at night instead of working on writing. So how did you schedule time, and how do you stick to it to write every day?
It's also writing. So if you take care of the email you write, or the follow-up, or whatever, that's a writing practice, right? By not just only getting it out, right, and send it away, but really think about what did I write? Could I restructure sentences? Is it clear enough? Do I use clear words, right? Do I use passive voice or active voice? Stuff like that. If you think about this regularly, you're actually writing, right? And that's good training. On the other hand, it's just a simple goal. For English books, I have a goal of 300 words per day. So I need to write 300 words per day. And then I consider this, I achieved my goal with writing. For example, the book. And 300 words is not much. You can make this, I think you can make it, you're native. You are there in 15, 20 minutes. And if you just do this every day, after 10 days, you have 2,000 words, right? And that's already, how much is it? 10 pages of a book. So go for it, right? 100 days, 100 pages. You will write more, right? It depends on your goal. Take 500 or take 1,000 words per day, but you need a word counter. This is how most authors work, actually.
Yeah, you just blew my mind by telling me emails is writing. I mean, I thought emails is emails, but the way you just mentioned.
Yeah, if you just write anything, it's not writing. But if you truly think about it, like, is it structured? Is it compelling? Has it a good start? So what's the first sentence? Would I want to continue reading when I read this first sentence? Is it about me, or is it about you? Because then perspective comes in, right? Perspective is a big thing in writing. To be consistent there is very important. So you learn a lot just by writing emails. And this is what you do every day. And it's a great exercise.
Nice.
That's why the contrary is, I think, is important, that you learn writing, because we write so much emails and proposals and stuff to clients and so, right? So writing is a basic skill for us as workers on the PC, on the laptop.
Makes sense. So yeah, definitely really cool to hear about the process. I mean, it definitely is. Just the act of writing a book must be such a slog with respect to obviously having the idea, wanting to put everything on paper, and then making sure you're diligent to follow that process to get it done. So congratulations in doing so. But I do want to quickly ask about the start of that whole process. So what was kind of the impetus for you to even want to write a book? book? Were there a whole bunch of experiences that you had out there where you just saw that people maybe just weren't getting what social selling was or what it meant to be a social sales engineer, and then that kind of, you know, spun you to want to write a book? Like, what were those initial experiences like to inspire you to do so?
It's really boring. That it wasn't that full at the beginning. As I said, it was the idea to have some basic ideas for pre-sales sales engineers to go out and do social medias. How could we like inspire them to do that, right? And then it's kind of serendipity. Then when you write, things happen to you and you realize, oh, this is important. Then you talk to somebody and you think, oh, this is important, right? And this then goes into the book while you write. So that's why I think you can't write such a book in under a year, because you're not exposed to all the experiences you need to get it done in a good way. So that counts for me, right? Everybody who's quicker and had this experience, great, right? But when you're into a new topic, if you're in new terrain, right, you need this kind of, your mind needs to go through that, and yeah, it's a learning experience for you too. So Ramsey, if you go and write your book, you will learn a lot about yourself and the topic you write about. That's yeah. I think by writing the book, you become an expert. You aren't before, right? But again, going through this, crunching through this, really with you and your laptop, keyboard, gets to more result.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk offline, you and me, about whatever I'm writing. Maybe you can help me out. Maybe
sure.
Every time I want to, I don't know if this is helpful to anybody else other than the three of us right now, but hopefully it is for people who want to write the book. Every time I wrote the outline, and then every 2 days I add something to it, and I add something to it, because I just learned the difference between channel SEs and direct SEs and what they're looking for. So now that's a chapter in the book, right? I'm not actively writing the book, but I'm writing the structure.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's kind of like feature creep when you're doing a proof of concept. You just keep adding stuff to it, and you're gonna have to figure out, or maybe do it in do Lord of the Rings, where you divide the book into 3 books and do 3 movies. But yeah, it's very interesting. How long did it take you to write the book?
This book took me over a year.
Okay.
From start to finish. The writing in itself, it can be pretty quick, right? This book has 40,000 words. So if my goal is 1,000 words per day, it's ready in 40 days. But then there is this edit process, and the edit process is actually the important one. So I can only nudge you to write down the things you have in your head. If you delete it later, it doesn't matter, but get your ideas on paper, because you will lose them. Yeah. If you only write down the chapter, you might lose some arguments you had in your mind, right? While thinking about this. You might lose some dependencies to other things you wanted to do. So it's best, make the structure your book, actually, do that, but write the chapters then.
Okay. All right. So this is a very basic question, which I'm sure a lot of people know the answer to. But why social selling? Why should we be worried about that as sales engineers? We're not marketers. We just, we go do a demo and do a POC and hopefully do a discovery if we're invited. Why are we concerned about social selling?
Oh, there's so many reasons. First, because I think a lot of sales engineers are introverts.
Yep.
Right? And it's actually, and this is from the book Quiet from Susan Cain. It's a bestseller on introverts. What she says is, for introverts, actually, the internet or social media got a much bigger playground to be successful, like Craigslist, for example, right? Craig Newman was an introvert, or Bill Gates, or even Guy Kawasaki, right? He's very outgoing, but he says about himself, he's an introvert. But their success depended on a platform like LinkedIn, for example, right? To become visible, to create something, right? And it's easier, I don't know about you, but if I get a cold call on my phone, so I'm a bit of an introvert too. If I get a cold call on my phone, it's like, I don't want to actually, I don't know who is it, I don't want to go there. But if I have to, with the same person, if I have an appointment in my calendar, I actually enjoy, right, taking the call. So it's the step in between. It's the same with the social platform. If you're there and you're visible and people maybe contact you first via this platform, and then you go into a real life conversation, that's easier, right? For me, it's easier. For introverts in general, it might be easier than going to a stranger and ask, hello, how are you? Or otherwise connect via the social platform and then ask, hey, can we meet?
I could, oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly. So that, I think that definitely makes sense, at least with respect to like one of the big defining factors or maybe differentiators between the whole introvert extrovert piece is where one gains or loses energy. And I guess that's the one I've subscribed to. So an introvert typically is going to expend energy when in crowds and kind of interact with a bunch of different people and kind of recharge by themselves. And it's the opposite for extroverts. And so the idea of using social media and the social networks as an introvert, it's kind of cool how you reach, how one action, whereas like in a normal conversation, you know, you're talking to one person, you're talking to another, so on and so forth. But on social media, you have one action to put out a post, and then that reaches so many different people at once. So you're able to get that. I guess you're able to get the most output for that input of energy that you're using as an introvert, and from there, then you kind of establish relationships and things kind of go from there. But it's kind of cool how you're able to leverage that idea that, you know, I could still interact with a lot of people without having to interact with a lot of people, and that seems to be one of the powers of social media.
I actually am going to disagree with you, Benny, about one thing. Something that introverts struggle with is putting themselves out there, right? Like extroverts are by nature out there. They're willing to talk to people. They want to talk to people. They're not worried about their ideas being considered stupid potentially. Whereas introverts, at least like for me, I struggled a lot to put out my first post, right? And you know, I never liked anything before I started VDSEs. I never shared anything on LinkedIn. I didn't have a Twitter. I never had a Facebook. I still don't have a Facebook. So I think that's the hard part that introverts need to overcome. What do you think, Patrick?
I think it's also answered in this book because there is this notion of shy and introvert. Shy people, I think what she said was the majority of shy people are also introverts. Okay?
Yep.
But shyness is something you can actually fight. Right? And think this happened with you maybe when you said, I go online, right? Shyness disappeared. And she also said something very cool, and I didn't know this before. She said there are shy extroverts. Okay? Just to reframe you, right? To break the pattern. It's not about being an introvert. It's about saying, okay, I'm shy. Why am I shy? What can I do? Oh, maybe I just need somebody to tell me my posts are actually okay. And maybe if I write this a bit different, then I can actually post this. My ideas are valuable, right? An introvert that actually has, and most of the time, very great ideas, right? They are creative people most of the time. They're very thoughtful. So whatever they produce is most likely of greater value, right? What holds them back is a kind of fear of putting their thoughts out. And I think this is a bit of a difference. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. Benny, do you?
Yeah, 100%. So like, yeah, I'm one of those people that, for example, like, I don't know, shyness is one of those things I think I naturally very much have. I still kind of like work with it a little bit, but like getting out or being outgoing and putting myself out there hasn't really been like, I've got a lot better at that. But at the same time, that thing that I still hold true to is the idea that, you know, even if I'm hanging around, you know, a bunch of my closest friends and stuff, I'm still going to get kind of exhausted by that experience, and I'm going to need to recharge by myself. Whereas, so anyways, that whole idea about how my energy is expended, that's kind of what I use to define the introvert extrovert piece. But anyways, so that's kind of still my standpoint on that. But I totally agree with what you're saying there too. With like shyness is definitely one of those things where you have to identify that it's the shyness that's the thing that I'm trying to work on rather, and get better at that. Whereas the whole like, can you change the fact that you're an introvert versus an extrovert? Though it's all a skill, I don't think you're going to change that as much.
Yeah, no, that's I think also that's a given. Like this is how you are, right? Yeah, but shyness. So I was really afraid to talk to people when I was younger. Foreign people. I couldn't. The stranger, that was impossible for me to go there and say hi or ask something. Just close my mouth, right? But being pre-sales later, it actually you needed to change, right? It was a good go do it.
I guess, is it because it's within the context of something more professional and something like work related that allows maybe a typically shy introverted sales engineer to kind of get out of their shell, to be better at their function, to serve their customers better? Is some of that perhaps like part of the drive for some people like that to, I guess, to become a social sales engineer?
Yeah, it's a stage, right? And every new client is an opportunity to be maybe a superhero, like, or somebody else at least, or the person you want to be, right? So a new client means people don't know you, and it's a professional environment, and you can just act out and hide your like shyness or like introvertism, right? And as far as I know, when I speak to AEs, account executives, they also tell me, well, actually, some of them are introverts, right? And you see them and you would never have thought that, because they run such a show on stage or in front of a client, right? But this is what I mean with acting. And that's, I think that's a superpower. And it's not being not authentic. It's just showing your full potential, right? Without the fear. This is how I think.
Also, you're talking about a product that you potentially love. Like, introverts like to talk about the things that they love to talk about, right? If there's if someone likes movies, they like to talk about movies. If someone loves sports, they like to talk about sports. And being a sales engineer, that means you're an expert in your domain. And I haven't seen an introvert worried about sharing that with people, because it's something they're confident in. Now, if there's an introvert who doesn't know their product very well, I've seen them struggle quite a bit. They can't just make it up, right? That, whereas someone is an extrovert who may not know their product as much as somebody else, they're able to think on the spot. They're able to like say, "Hey, I'll come back to this. I'll come back with an answer." I think that's where strengths and weaknesses kind of show a little bit more. So.
And then you have the big piece of familiarity, and this plays into introverts' hands also, because if I'm out there more often, people see me, right? Although they may never like a post, or but they will maybe read, right? Or they see you on your video or whatever. So if you join this discovery call the first time, and the person has actually researched you before, they might think, "Hey, I have the feeling I know this person," right? And the first call becomes warmer, like, and this really helps every sales engineer. Yeah, and just imagine this one thing when your competitor, so the sales engineers at your competitive company organization, when they would start, all of them, creating LinkedIn profiles that are curated, that are complete. Maybe there's some piece of content, some posts they wrote themselves. It's about them a bit. It's about how they think, about the domain, about the industry, about the world. I don't know, right? But if they would do that, what do you think would potential customers do? If they research the product, right?
They will know them more than they know you.
Exactly.
Have familiarity.
And they have a hook, like to write them a message. If you have a profile, but it's not curated, right? You just have a profile with a picture, that's it. And maybe what you worked before. I have a real trouble writing you because I have no hook. Okay, I would talk to Ramsey or Bini, but what is it? Give me something, right? That I can ask, "Hey, and how was your last whatever?" Or "How's it been?" So give me something, give me this hook. A curated profile always has this, because you have some posts in there, and somebody else can always go back and say, "Hey, so Ramsey, in your last video, I saw your kid, right? How are you doing?" And oh, he's interested in my stuff, and it's an easier like conversation. I think that's a big point.
I feel like you're hitting on a bunch of different things there. So like definitely the idea, so maybe 3 big things in particular is just the idea of like just getting yourself out there regardless, even if there's a sense of fake it until you make it, to a degree. Like if you're an introvert, kind of practice the extroverted qualities that don't come as naturally to you, so that you could then maybe get better at that whole acting piece. But then from that, putting yourself out there so that, as you have a profile out there, as your name pops up, let's say, just, as somebody else is browsing or otherwise they look up your company, it kind of gains you a sense of legitimacy as well. And, just you as a random person with a profile now, all of a sudden are viewed in the eyes of a prospect as a potential expert, or otherwise, you're just building some legitimacy for yourself. But on top of all that, you also seem to be opening up a door for a more human connection with someone too. So like, while we are all doing these B2B sales, just having, a LinkedIn profile up there for a random, prospect or otherwise to be able to connect with you with respect to something in your personal life is also kind of cool. So like, you're kind of hitting on all sorts of just different benefits or different yeah, I guess benefits of having a social media presence and being active on there, I guess for any individual, for whether it be in the eyes of the prospect or otherwise in the eyes of your peers or anything like that. So yeah, benefits that would seem to be pretty.
Or recruiters, right?
Or recruiters too. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny, like I've been doing this for a few years. I already mentioned that. I have not a single time wrote anything about the company that I work for. Right? But like all my stuff is about sales engineering, not about test and measurement. Even still, when I talk to customers, like, yeah, I follow your blog. Like, are you interested in being a sales engineer? No, I just want to know a little bit more about you. And so that created familiarity and had nothing to do with what they needed to do. It's just, I'm talking about how to treat a customer right. So they're happy with that. So, and you mentioned that in your book, Patrick, that I've had issues while I was trying to get, the reason I haven't done anything for my company, the company I work for, is when I talk to marketing about it, there's a million hoops that I have to jump through to actually put out a single post. I either have to share something that they've already created, which I think is useless potentially, or I create my own, have to submit it for approval, edit a million times, add logos, add whatever, and then submit it again, and then maybe post it. So it just takes too much time, and I didn't want to do it. And you said it in the book. How did Elias? By the way, that's my dad's name. So how did he deal with that situation? Can you share that?
Yeah, so basically it's finding your own brand. So what are you interested in? And he talks about the industry in general. So he makes up his mind and said, okay, we are working in the CRM solution. So Elias is working for a CRM company and he feels a gap in the AI-like capabilities. So what he actually says is currently CRMs, right? It's not talking about his product. He says CRMs are putting just a number on the back of employees, right? It's just, you need to enter data, you can be analyzed, right? How good are you? How fast are you closing deals and so on. So it's just a tool for management at the end. This is his premise, yeah. And then he says, okay, how do I make this more human, right? What could a CRM do, right? And he says, okay, we could create strengths profiles. That would be something beneficial for actually the employees, right? And this is the idea. So he went on a bit more, is more visionary, and I would ask everybody to do the same. You're an expert in your product area, in your domain. So take this and look for a niche. Look for something that has a provocative, switch. I don't know if this is the right word, but a provocative perspective on what you do, right? And this is you're still a person, right? And you can express your opinions, and it's not about the product. But if a client will come and say, okay, I like your point of view actually about CRM, I see it the same way. I don't want to use it as management tool, so I can, I don't know, justify my next hire or whatever funding, but I want to strengthen my people using it. But then this is a new point of view, right? Of course, it's easier in a novel to describe such things than in real life, right? But the same thing apply also in real life, right? So, but some people need help saying, okay, I really don't know what to write about. And this is where I help with, for example, coachings. Yeah? This is the whole training. It's always coaching and training. And in the coaching, this is where we discuss this. Patrick, what can I write about? And then we will work on that, to find out what are topics, what are provocative perspective maybe, to start. And it evolves then from by itself, right? Once you start writing,
Is that where you see SEs struggle most, just coming up with ideas?
Yes. They don't dare to say, what can I say, right? What can I write? What can I say? What will colleagues say when I start posting, right? Do they think I will want a new position or I will leave or whatever? It's all about, it's ego based, right? The fear is out of your ego, right? What will others think about me? Is my thought worth sharing? I say, yes, it is. If you make up your mind, if you give it real perspective, if you give it your energy, yes, share it, right?
It's interesting that you say that, talking about industry versus talking about product. Because when you talk about industry in general, you're not favoring a product over another, which is very beneficial if you think about it, that you might be recruited by another company or a competitor. So if you spend your entire time talking about a specific product, saying how great it is or how bad the other product is, which most SEs never do, and then you move companies, now you're going to have to either delete everything that you've written before or, adapt or move. But talking about the industry in general, it just gives you such a leg up because now you're an expert in the industry, not in the product. You're a thought leader, and you can help the customers develop their own way of thinking versus how to use a specific product. I love that. Yeah, that's great. Benny's writing frantically, so I'm just gonna let him ask his question.
Well, it's more so like as I was typing it, you started to kind of say the answer. So more or less had to do with the idea of, is there kind of a one size fits all model with respect to what people should post? And does that kind of depend on what they want to get out of it? Because realistically, like, I mean, to what Ramsey's saying right now, you could have people speaking about, their company specifically, but then, then you're just kind of an evangelist for just your company. But then, and maybe, you get some credibility from that. But beyond that, if you're writing from the industry's perspective, though, then as Ramsey said, you're kind of now gaining the industry, the credibility of an industry expert to some degree. And then also similar to that would be speaking about kind of like what you do, Ramsey, with respect to We the SEs, or even Patrick with respect to Sales Hero and all that. Being an evangelist with respect to the role of pre-sales is also really cool, because now you're not just talking about your company or industry, but you're just talking about, the role of pre-sales in general across the board. And so I guess it isn't so much a question, so much as an observation from what y'all are saying, but it's kind of cool that it's not just a one size fits all. Different people could post different things depending on what they want to get out of it.
So exactly.
Patrick, can you and I do an exercise?
No.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, see you later.
Bye-bye.
Well, I was wondering if, let's say I don't have We the SEs. I'm a new SE, and I'm struggling to figure out something to write about the industry. Can we go through that? Maybe you can help guide me to write a blog about the industry. How do we get started?
Okay, so typically what I would ask you actually is for daily routine and write down, so what we always prepare is a kind of routine sheet where you go through your positioning. Yeah, you ask yourself actually, why am I different, right? So or what is it I'm different in? Yeah. That would be the first question you ask yourself. So, the thing is, when you want to post, you don't want to post like let's take the iPhone. You don't want to be the better iPhone. You want to be something different that serves, like maybe your phone, but you want to serve a different, maybe a more niche kind of way. What is missing on the iPhone that you could do, right? And then you specialize on that. That's what I would ask every person to do first. Don't look for the better thing that is there, but a different thing. So I would ask, what's your industry?
I'm in test and measurement currently.
Test and measurement. Okay. And are there? Can you name some domains of test and measurement? So I think it splits down in further domains, right?
Yeah, I mean you can split it by technology, or you can split it by the type of testing that is done. If you're talking technology, IPM, like routing, switching, LTE, 5G, all that. And types of testing is like system test, performance testing, core testing. Like I'm trying to say it in words that other people might understand, but
and is there something so two things: is there something you're really interested in, and is there something you see that's underserved out there?
I'm interested in, for me, this is seriously, I actually started writing something about this, but never posted it. A holistic view to testing. Not, instead of splitting it into small different pieces, how can we have a holistic view and run tests to test everything versus just a small piece of it?
Okay, holistic testing. So, and then I would ask you one more thing, and now we would do a merge. Now I would ask you, what's actually something in your private life you know very well? Maybe you're a golfer, or you're a trader, or you're, I don't know, you build models. I don't know what you do.
I'm a father, I guess. Right, these days I'm a father. Yeah, that's pretty much what I know.
Some other hobbies? You are a YouTuber, right?
Sure, yeah. Sure, we'll go with that.
Okay, let's go with that. So now I would ask you, like, what experiences, so try to get experience together where you find a correlation. So actually get a sheet, right? And write down from holistic testing, write down some keywords. Now get the sheet and write down some keywords from your YouTuber experience, like the shooting, the camera, I don't know, whatever, the cutting. And then try to find like, or not to find, but make up like connections between those. This is how you develop a story. So that way you can actually start posting. So I don't know, but a testing process that you then...
Well, the first thing that popped in my mind you were talking about is like when you're doing a YouTube video, you want to bring in the camera, you want to bring everything, and you just want to get started. But a lot of times something just doesn't work. And you spend a lot of time trying to figure out the setup versus doing the YouTube video. And kind of similar with testing. Sometimes you want to test and something just doesn't work. And instead of testing, you're kind of working on figuring out why is it not working to begin with so I can do my testing. So yeah, that's the first thing that popped in my mind when you were talking.
Yeah, and now you have a post that's educational and entertaining, right? Because you get from an area that maybe most people understand, like setting up a camera or equipment, into something that is your special domain, where people maybe don't know. So if you go this process forward and repeat it in the best situation daily, you will come up with very interesting like ideas. And it's not only YouTube, maybe it's the father kind of thing, where you say, my daughter did this, right? Or I was so angry because, and you can map this into your holistic measuring or testing domain, right? The more niche you can go, the better. For a beginning, try to do something that's underserved. Yeah. That would be good. So it's a bit of a research. Yeah.
So like you wouldn't expect to come up with the best topic on the first try. Like it'll be through a few iterations, and then like light bulb will hit. And if you don't think about it,
you'll half a year or a year. You need half a year at least daily, like thinking and writing. Posting, like, or don't say daily, right? Exclude the weekend, but constantly thinking about this and writing. While you write, you will understand your own patterns. You understand how you think yourself and what you know and what you don't know. And then you will hear something and you will correlate this. It's just setting up your brain that way, right?
Yeah. So it's taken half a year to come up with, like, I guess the viral video or whatever it is, but you're doing something that entire half of the year. It's not like you're just sitting back and waiting for the inspiration to come, because inspiration only comes when you're actually actively doing something.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I like this picture. I don't know if you know the War of Art from Stephen Pressfield.
No.
It's an amazing book of resistance. So he has this amazing picture. He says for him, it's like there's a glass wall, right? And behind this wall, like our display now here, right? And behind this wall, there are two angels or two muses or whatever it is that you think gives you your ideas, right? And they only can break this glass wall when you sit there every day and pour out your energy, your thoughts, right? But they need to know where to break it. So you need to sit there every day or be there. Yeah. So I like this image, and then they will come through, and the one day the glass cracks open, there will be your magic moment, right? Yeah. And then things will slow down again, and you work to the next moment, right? It's like a stair. That's what I also say in the book. It's never like, now I'm successful.
Yeah.
No.
Overnight success does not happen overnight.
No.
Overnight success takes years of work to have.
It's fake. It doesn't exist. For maybe for 99.999% of the people. For some it might be, but I think that's not the majority.
I haven't seen it. Like, I haven't seen overnight success happen actually overnight. Like, it's usually years of preparation, and then something happens that just, you do something right, and then you figure out, oh, my audience like this more than that, so I'm just gonna write here. And it's all experimentation. Like, I did that YouTube video where I didn't edit anything. You saw my child. I dropped the pen, it was just an experiment to see if people like it or not. And now I think next time maybe it's a combination of this and that together.
Exactly.
So, but it's iteration. That's good. You mentioned something earlier that you said you'll explain on the show about finding leads through social media. It wasn't exactly that. That's what I wrote down because that's what I understood. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
That's what you want to know.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, why else am I doing this?
Yeah. So initially, to set this up, I try to speak with many leaders in pre-sales as I can every week. So, and I had one talk with VP pre-sales in Australia, and he opened up my mind or my eyes a bit, like, because he said, Patrick, I think the pre-sales world also changes because we need to do prospecting, or we will need to do prospecting in the future. And this is not like cold calling somebody. It's working in existing accounts, right? So yeah, and there are new roles and their own thinkings about being an account pre-sales and stuff like that. But the prospecting bit goes so far that you need to call maybe somebody in the team you don't know, or in the customer you don't know. Be it an architect, being maybe the CTO, being an executive, who knows, right? And the social selling, or your social profile will help you do that, right? Because people are familiar with you. So it's easier to go there and maybe to contact them, right? That's the main thing. So, and being out there is just the point. I had in my last course, like this ran in October, there was one person who actually, and we post with every group session, right? So we posted something, he had a great idea, and one of his leads or opportunities, actually they commented on the post that it was a person they couldn't get hold of before. So his manager asked, hey, how do you do this? Tell me your secrets, right? It was a huge success. And I love this example so much because it just reflects what's possible. I think there's kind of a statistic out there that 46% of B2B buyers are actually the biggest group in social media, because they are all like in millennials, whatever, right? They're in this age that social media is pretty normal. So if you sell, buyers will like research you. And if you don't have a profile, this is weird, right? Oh, why is somebody not there? I'm researching you online and I have a discovery call with you next week and you're not there.
Yeah.
Crazy. And if you're there, have a hook, please, so that they can write you something. Hey, let's meet next week, right?
Yeah, and like,
invite people.
So when you're doing that, when someone's writing, let's say as an SE, my target is this audience, I can change my posts to target that specific audience so that they can comment as well. Like I can change my postings and the way I word things to match whatever audience I'm trying to reach to, and like, I guess, expand my opportunity to meet with them, because as soon as they like or comment on my post, now I can reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed you liked my post. We actually do this, and that, and I'm happy to chat with you further if that's something that's interesting to you.
Yeah, some people even have problems with this step, and they say, okay, then I'll post it, and now VP of my client likes and comments. What can I do, right? It's like, I'm afraid now. Like now I have them. What to do with the fish, right?
Yeah.
And there are also some options, right? The one is not to do nothing. It's perfectly fine, right? It's okay. You can do nothing. Another step would be talk to your AE or SDR, right? How do you follow up, for example, right? Write them a kind message, connect, right? Connect request would also good. And the last thing, and actually this is what I like most, is go into a personal kind of a relationship. So ask them, can we have an informal chat? I saw you liked my post. It's not about my company. I just want to know you, right? Let's talk about problems in our domain. And I think there's a huge difference in this, bullshit social media with nonsense posts and being out there as an expert and really connect with people and say, can we talk about the issues in our domain, like independent of my company? the point is a bit, what does your company think about this, right? Typically, modern organizations would be open for that approach, right?
Well, it's none of the company's business at that point. You're using your own personal LinkedIn, and you're meeting someone. Whether business comes up in the future, that's possible. But you as a human being, you're allowed to meet people, whether the company wants you or not. Like, speaking of company, my previous company tried to shut down this podcast.
Oh.
Right? Yes, because I talked to someone they didn't like. So it is possible that can happen.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know. My manager shielded me from that until he left the company, and he said, "Ramsey, watch out. This is what's happening." And I left the company 2 months later because of that.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it could happen. I'm not saying it won't, but it is, generally speaking, none of their business what you do with your own connections, with your own LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely.
Unless like you're putting like naked pictures out there, then it's within their rights to not want you there. But if you're not breaking any laws, go ahead.
No, but you get in a conflict area, right? So NAE could say, hey, this person was in the CRM already, and you spoke to this person. Are you crazy? What about our deal? We had the deal going, right? So this is where conflict appears. Yeah, but you should be able to say then, well, we didn't speak about the product at all. We spoke about general things of the industry. This should still be fine, right? Nevertheless, it's all the people business. So there might be different opinions about that. Yeah. So I don't say be careful, but because I think this would not be the right thing, but be moral, right? At this point, be professional. Yeah. I think that's it, and then it should be fine. If you don't break law, right? Yeah. And if you're moral, professional, everything is good. Yeah.
And like I would say, talk to your account manager. And generally speaking, SEs should know what opportunities are in the funnel. So if there's an opportunity going on with that specific VP, then talk to your AE about it first. But if there's nothing going on,
but the point is, if you have a bigger organization, right, and you attract on social media, you attract anybody. Like in a different region, right? I'm in DACH now, and maybe I attract someone from the US, but I don't know the US AEs, right? And they can come to me, hey, how can you speak to this guy, right?
Okay. That's not what I had in mind. I was thinking more someone in my territory or could potentially be one of my customers.
Social media is worldwide, right?
Yeah, you're right.
You can attract German customers, like.
Agreed. In the end, I think it's just all in the end, it's going to come down to the fact that, or it's all going to come down to that context matters in the end. So whether you're reaching out to someone within your territory or not, it's like, again, like you kind of said, social media is open game. LinkedIn especially encourages you to reach out to strangers to a degree. So it's all about context. Even if you're reaching out to someone who's currently in the funnel, so long as the context of the conversation isn't so much of them being in the funnel and you trying to push them along. But like you said there, Patrick, around kind of just talk about the domain. I just want to maybe understand more about the space in general, nothing about my company, nothing about yours. Let's just have a chat as two people. I think that's fair. Like, and in the end, like, and then, if the context is a little more broad, if you're talking to someone in a whole other territory, for sure. I think it all just comes down to context, because if somebody reaches out to you on LinkedIn and you're kind of shooting them down and say, hey, I don't want to talk to you, I think that's more of a personal thing, more so than a professional thing, because it's just two people reaching out on social media.
And I agree. And so what I see is you need a goal, right? So you don't talk to strangers about something when you don't know where to go with that, right? So, and the goal can be, for example, to build a following, like people really know you. So to expand your network, because you're typically introvert, and this is a tool that can really help you. Yeah? Or you're extrovert and want to maybe meet more because you can't go out because of some stupid virus, right? So those are the things, and it's a leverage. And it should be, I think today it should be a tool you need to master. And I believe that companies will pay you in the future for a good following, for good content, whatever, right? Even a sales engineer, they need to pay you because you attract people. And this is measurable, or will be measurable very soon. Like, how many people do you attract and maybe follow from you to the company you work for, right? So marketing will be able to see to see this. And we need B2B influencers like they are out there for your sunscreen, right? So a lot of influencers there are no VIPs anymore, right? Those are normal people who became like influencers, VIPs. And I think the same should happen in sales engineering. Yeah, it has to. There was one guy in my past. I was in German and I sold middleware, and I thought I was good. I didn't have a big LinkedIn profile, and I wrote some random blog posts, right? But there was this one guy from a competitor that I found one day, and I was devastated, like, oh gosh, I'm doomed, right? Why would people buy from me? So I started to think, I need to build up my profile. I need to build up connections. I need to build up content, because there's competition out there. When a prospect would join his profile or mine, I'm doomed. There's no reason they would talk to me, right? Because the other guy had like papers out there and he was on stage, right? High shiny pictures and stuff like that. But it's the same role. It was exactly the same role that we had. And this was like, oh gosh, I need to be careful and do something.
Nice. Patrick, we're coming up to like our time. Is there a question that you was hoping I asked you and I didn't?
Yes, you could ask, how could a profile influence a deal?
How could a profile influence a deal, Patrick? That's a very good question. I should have thought of it. Go ahead.
Great stuff. Great question, Ramsey.
Thank you.
Good. So there's one thing I dream of, really. So I'm really inspired by this. And I wish I had this revelation when I was still in the field. So the point is, I think we as pre-sales should have an engagement plan. So when we come to clients, we show them, dear client, this is how we work. This is how we make you successful, by the way. So on there's discovery, interviews, whatever, right? Until close commit. So, but now I think deals are not like sequential anymore. You can enter actually every step with social media, but there's one very particular, and this is at the very beginning, when an account executive is actually talking to a prospect and they agree on having a discovery call. What the account executive has to do is look up my expert here. So before you meet for a discovery call, your account executive sends the prospect on your curated social media profile. And this should be true for the whole team. And I think the results would be amazing. Like, discovery calls will be warmer. The content naturally will evolve because sales engineers know, oh gosh, clients will look at my profile. So I will post regularly, right? And I will think about what I post because I want to be seen in a specific way. And I think this would, I just think that's just a good idea, that how I would leverage this, right? When I even I already put in work in this profile. I think this is a good leverage.
It's like a product-led deal, except it's an SE-led deal. Right? It's like, go download the product and play with it, or go check out my SE or my expert, and he's gonna be the one who helps you. Yeah. Right? So I find product-led opportunities hard because you're losing control of the deal. Someone else is trying it and playing with it, and then you come in and try to convince them that you played with it incorrectly, or maybe you could have done this or that. But having look at my expert, see what he does, see his thoughts, and then when you meet face to face, if his thoughts or what he says is different than what he posted, you're losing connectivity there. But if it's congruent and what you're saying is consistent throughout, then you have trust faster than you have having to build it on your own through meetings. So that's amazing. Yeah.
And you can even reframe customers before you meet them, because they will follow the crowd. If you have 200 likes on your most provocative idea on how to run an industry, right? Like non-traditional, yeah. Then they will think, oh, 200 people agreed. Okay, but I don't see it this way. Okay, let's talk. So then there's interest, right? So you're still the expert.
Yeah, and you have points of discussions. Like exactly. You don't have to think of things on the spot, and they have things that they already want to talk to you about, versus you coming in and them sitting like this, and then you're gonna have to break the ice. That's amazing. All right, Patrick. I know it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I think it's late your time. So I appreciate you being here. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
We will see each other on our YouTube channels.
Yes.
soon.
Thank you, Patrick, for coming on, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did, as usual. It's been a great show, and this is kind of a bittersweet show because, as you saw, Benny hasn't been on the show for a while, and he co-hosted this episode as well. And this is pretty much the last episode he's going to co-host for a while. Nothing happened. It's just he's busy. He's doing other things. So I wish Benny all the luck in the world. And I appreciate the time and effort that he's put in with me to get this show successful. And I also want to thank you for being here, for listening to each and every show, or at least most of the shows. And I would ask that you share this show with whoever you think this could be useful to. And if you haven't put a rating or review on any of the platforms, please do so. Thank you, Patrick. This was amazing. And every time I talk to Patrick, I learn a lot. And we're going to be working a lot more with Patrick going forward. So stay tuned for future endeavors. I guess that's it. Again, thank you. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.